All right. Well, so let's take questions from the audience for Sam and Janet Brill about the fantastic story that you were able to share with us, which we greatly appreciate that you were able to give us this example. So if people want to share and have questions, while I'm up here, would somebody mind taking the microphone around?
Okay, hold on. Okay, again, if you didn't hear me, I'm just asking where did K-Tech put her name in the marble? Was it, I think you said San Giorno?
It's Porto San Giorgio.
Giorgio.
Yeah.
And where?
She just said that in her Shoah testimony, that she chiseled it in the marble steps wherever the Pope Pius was speaking.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right, we'll look for it.
Hello, I'm Bob Erickson, and I don't know if you remember that we had lunch together a while back, and I believe this is your second visit to our conference, and you have created this story, you've broadened this story in an astonishing way. It's an amazing story, and I'm curious how and when you learned this story from Edna.
Well, first of all, my children videoed her about 5 years ago, and I forgot I wanted to say that at the end of her video she said, "Kids, you have a very courageous grandma." And so, you know, I always knew about her story, but I never took the time to research it, but I'm a researcher. And I just decided in the later years of her life I wanted to write about her story, but she didn't want to do it anymore. So we didn't do that. But when she passed away, I just decided to figure everything out. And I researched it, and I just find it very compelling, and her story is absolutely jaw-dropping. And, you know, I didn't have time. I went very quickly, but there are things that she wrote, that she talked about in her, not only in the video that the kids made, but in her Shoah testimony that I wanted to share, because I think it's really fascinating that she was able to pull the wool over the eyes of not only the Nazis, but the Polish people as well. And now that we have a little time, I wanted to read a couple more of what she had to say, because it's just unbelievable. My mother was extremely generous. Whatever she had, she shared. An extremely selfless person, as was Edna. At this point, my mother said, "You're not coming back." The ghetto was extremely dangerous at this point. She made us dress in the nicest, cleanest dresses we had. She made arrangements for us to live on the Aryan side with a Polish family, gave them what little money she had left to take Miriam and me in. The husband had worked for my father, so she considered them friends. The moment she received, the Polish woman received the money, she tried to take us to the Gestapo. By this time, my sister and I could communicate with just eye contact. So she and I looked at each other. The women had grabbed our hands. We both turned to her and kicked her in the shins, one on the right, one on the left. Then we took off in different directions. Why did the Polish woman do this? Because at the time, the Germans were giving rewards to whomever brought in Jews. And then she writes, or she says about becoming a Catholic. We became strict Polish Catholics. We learned from our Gentile friends on the street. We learned the Lord's Prayer, the Hail Mary, and also to curse in Polish. Important to prove you were really a Polak. Our language had to be correct because who could tell at that time if you were really Jewish? Not the Germans, only another Polak. So if we did something, some mannerism that would give us away, it was the Poles that could tell that something was off. With our Polish, we had to speak in a vulgar street language to fit in, not the proper Polish we were brought up speaking grammatically correct to make us more believable. We changed our Jewish names. Miriam had an older girlfriend, Gentile, who had another Gentile friend with the last name Skolkowska, a very Polish name. The O had to have the accent on top to make it very Polish Gentile. I had to practice to say it correctly. We took that and changed our first names to Gentile names, Stefsha and Marisha. Stefsha with the tail under the C. And then I wanted to read this about Miriam. My sister was a beautiful young girl. Once she was riding the trolley in Warsaw and a man went after her. The Polish police, this is when they were living on the Aryan side. The Polish policeman grabbed him and left her alone. She's a Jewess, shouted the man. This was after the ghetto uprising, so there were not supposed to be any Jews left. So the policeman took her to the Polish police headquarters and they interrogated her. A policewoman said to her, "Tell me the truth. You're Jewish. I can help you. Whisper it to me." But Miriam was too smart for that. She said, "Do what you want to me. Kill me. But make sure you put a cross on my grave." Frustrated, the Polish police took her to Gestapo headquarters, thinking she was working for the underground and also, of course, a Jew. They took her to the Gestapo headquarters, Al-Shuka 25, a German interrogation building in Warsaw. Nobody came out alive from there. The Germans said, "What do you do?" And Miriam said, "I perform on the streets with my sister." They said, "Where's your sister?" And she said she didn't know. They grabbed me on the tram and we were together and now I'm here. With a gun held to her head, the Gestapo said, "Okay, sing." Miriam said her voice came from God. She sang a beautiful German song, like a songbird. So beautiful was her voice that the Gestapo wanted to take her to Germany to sing for the soldiers. She said, "I'm sorry, I can't do that. I have a little sister to take care of, and you know how people are. She will die." So during the interrogation, she heard screams of people being tortured. This is at Al-Shura, or whatever it is. Shuka, thank you. It was mostly political people there, the underground or smugglers or saboteurs. Can you believe they gave her a pass? They released her, and it took her 2 weeks to find me. A friend of a friend knew where I was, and finally she found me. And then you know what she did? She took me back to Al-Shuka. She had me dressed very neat and clean with a nice dress and shoes. I was worried I had too Jewish a profile, so I made sure not to show them my profile. My only problem was I didn't have blue eyes. They're brown, but my hair was my savior, blonde, very, very blonde. At the headquarters, the Gestapo put his hand on my shoulder, and I started to shake so badly. To cover that up, I instantly started to dance, and I said to him, "What are you looking for? I don't have any lice." They called me Wunderkind, the wonder child. So many instances of quick thinking that saved our lives.
So my specialization is Polish history. My name is Christina. And I was just curious, you mentioned the family, or the woman who wanted to take the girls to the Gestapo as soon as she got them. And I was curious, did you get any stories from your mother-in-law about people who actually helped them? Were there any specific instances of that, of Polish people who were helping them?
She actually said, yes, there were, but you can only count them on your two hands.
It would be nice to know about the heroic.
Well, actually, for a while they stayed with gypsies, and then actually they went, her sister Miriam had a Gentile girlfriend that lived in Lublin, so the family took them in, and they were kind souls, but they had to work for their for their stay,
Right,
their
yes.
room and board. So they actually, the family in Lublin, they would take the train into Warsaw, and he, for a living, he made religious frames and pictures. So they would sell them, and what they would do is they were so smart that they would go to the churches, and they would learn all the hymns, and then they would stand outside of the church and sing them, and then sell all the religious items, and then take the money back and give to the family in Lublin.
So they were quite far away from Warsaw for much of it?
For a bit of time. That's how they I think like 9 months they lived there. But then Edna said that she went down to go to the bathroom. You know, they had like a outhouse or something. And she said one of the women that was living there took a broom and brushed it in feces, and then took the broom to Edna's face and said, "You Jewish, you were Jewish." So Edna relayed that to Miriam. They hightailed it out of Lublin.
Okay, don't talk until you have the microphone, because no one else can hear you.
Oh, really? Oh, I thought it was quite loud. Sorry. I'm sorry, everybody. Oh, gosh, so many people. When I told my very good friend in Warsaw this morning, so his afternoon, that I was coming to listen to you today, he said, yes, I know all about Kitek.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and I sent the description of what your conference is and everything. So, greetings from Warsaw.
I can elaborate a little bit about your question. In the case of Yakov, their brother, my uncle, he did get refuge on a farm outside of Warsaw for a period of time. And I actually got to meet, when we went back in 1989, we did meet the farmer that saved his life, kept him in hiding, and the farmer's son. So in that case, there was righteous people, and it was an honor meeting this, what was then a very old man with his son, and I hope that answers that.
Yeah, I'll just repeat that. Downstairs, in case, if you have time this afternoon, I'd encourage you to just walk downstairs in this building to the Scandinavian Cultural Center. We were very lucky to secure an exhibit about righteous Gentiles and their rescue work. And it's not a very large exhibit, so you can look at it in an hour or less. So I'd encourage you to go down and read some more information about some very heroic people who recognized evil for what it was, and who did whatever they could to make a difference and save people's lives. Okay, we have a question?
Question, did Edna return to her Jewish religion, or did she continue to practice Catholicism, or what happened for the rest of her life when she left Poland?
She, of course, when she went to Israel, she was, that's a funny story, when she was in London and Yaakov took her to the Israeli embassy to get her papers, she had to fill out the form, and it says religion, and she writes Roman Catholic. And Yaakov's like, Edna, you're Jewish. And so the Israeli head said, leave her alone. Leave her be. Let her do what she wants. And then, so when she eventually went to Israel, she thought she was just going for a little trip. She wanted to come back. She wanted to go back to the convent because that was her safety. That was her security. And she was completely brainwashed that she was a Catholic and absolutely had nothing to do with Judaism. In fact, it's quite sad because at the end of her show tape, they said, would you like to add anything else? And she said that the worst thing, of course, that not the worst, but what was so horrific about what Hitler did was that he made a child hate her parents for the religion that they brought her into the world as. So she actually had all of those, her Catholic, the rosary, all of her, the icons, all those things. She kept that with her whole life. We just found it, after she passed away. So I think she definitely became Jewish again when she got married. But I think, but I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that throughout her life, she would dream about, she said that she had a dream, a recurring dream about that Jesus Christ came down and carried her up away from Warsaw, and she wanted to reach down to get Miriam, but she couldn't. So I think that she probably was ambivalent. I don't know.
I don't know if ambivalent is the word. I think she had a belief in both. Catholicism, the convent, gave her that security, the love. Although nuns, from what I hear, can be rough. But
Yeah, they're pretty hardcore sometimes.
yeah.
Catholic school graduate.
Okay, there we go. But and in more recent times, before she passed away, we have an aide that now takes care of my father full time. But she would express to Deb, that she would tell her, I have two gods that I believe in. And that was within the last 6 months. So I don't think ambivalence. I think there's a feeling there.
I think I see a hand over there.
Over here? Oh, back here.
Let me add one more thing. But what she would also say would be, in her times of anger, I don't believe in a God. How could God have done this? Mm-hmm. But at other times she'll say, oh my, I do believe in God. So there was the ambivalence about God. Is there a God? And you can understand going through something like that. You question God if you believe in God.
Eli Wiesel, when he got out of the camps, he said, God is dead. But he came back to Judaism. In more recent times, Jesus was a Jew, and he was killed by Pontius Pilate. At least that's what we know. So that can also build a bridge between the two religions in that sense,
Can we give a round of applause to the Brills?
Also, I'd like to thank the Powells, the Hellers, the Myers, Mayor.
Yeah.
What a wonderful endeavor. What a wonderful symposium this year. And thank you all for coming. And this is really just a wonderful cause for those survivors still around, for those that have passed on, but for their memory. We shall never forget, and this is one way we don't. Thank you all.